From Journey with VRD, you're listening to the Visions, Missions, and Manifestations podcast, the number one place for spirituality, healing, and transcendence. I'm your host, Vivian Raquel Dayan. Now let's get into it. Hey everyone, it's me, Vivian. And before we get into today's episode, I want to try doing something a little bit different and talk to you guys a little bit about what's been going on in my world. As you may have heard in last episode with Naomi Salvati, I recently manifested a huge opportunity to fully leave my 9 to 5 and commit fully to Journey with VRD. This is huge because it's something that I've been working towards for 2 years. And I remember being in my bed 2 years ago, talking to my grandmother about how one day Journey with VRD would be my full-time job, that I would get to be paid for living in my purpose, helping people remove the blocks that's stopping, blocking, and slowing them down from life, to rid of the shame, the pain, the guilt that's been trapping them, keeping them stuck from living their true potential. And my grandmother said, how would you possibly be able to do that? And she said, you know how many clients you need? You know how many years it would take? And I said, Grandma, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I just know it's going to happen. I'm going to put the Journey with VRD manifestation method to work. I am going to be my own guinea pig because before this, I manifested things like complete health. As many of you know, my whole manifestation journey started because I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease at 12 years old, right? That's how I got into this. And I always tell people, like, the thing that you're going through right now that feels the hardest, that feels the scariest, that feels like there's no way out, it's actually your biggest gift in life. And I know this because I was there. When I was diagnosed with Crohn's at 12, that could have been my entire identity. But instead, I was grateful enough that a part of me heard my great grandfather at a time say that once you're diagnosed with something, it's your life. And that part of me was in denial and refusal to even accept for 1 second that I was sick. And it led me down this whole rabbit hole of manifestation to the point where 3 months after being diagnosed, I was no longer on medication and there was no more inflammation. And if you want to hear more of that story, I could go deeper into it in another podcast episode, or you could go listen to episode number 5 where I talk way more about it. However, so I wanted to just share this huge thing, this huge new life shift that's happening for me right now. Another incredible shift, as many of you may know, especially those who were on the Sedona Manifestation Healing Retreat. I recently got engaged, and that is something that is huge, a huge manifestation that came into fruition for me. And I'm really excited because it's actually funny. I manifested Michael, my fiance, after doing the 3 month group Manifest Love program that we had in 2024. And again, just another testament that the Journey with VRD manifestation method works. What else has been going on in my life that I'm just so excited for? As many of you may know, May 7th, if you're like, I need to get into Viv's world, I want to manifest, I want to learn her method. Starting May 7th, I'm doing a 6-week online manifestation mastery course where you'll learn the exact process on how to manifest anything in your life. You'll literally be able to copy and paste anything on your manifestation board, on your Pinterest board, because you'll gain the exact tools on how to do so. In the past, people have manifested money, people have manifested a new home, their dream vacation. There's so many things that came through for people last year when we did this. So if you're somebody who just wants to learn either how to manifest or there's something that you want to manifest specifically, this will be the forever course that changes your life and your one last stop to learning anything new about manifestation, because this will teach you how to do it all or how to manifest it all and that you get to have it all. There's two really cool parts about the 6-week program. First of all, each week you'll get a meditation that you'll listen to for 7 nights to help you get through each of the five spheres of the Journey with VRD manifestation method. As you all know, method number one is getting crystal clear. Method number two is you move from getting crystal clear to taking inventory. Listen, you're not starting from nothing. There's things that are already working for you. Then we get into the third part of the method, which is the purge or the death, as I like to call it, where we purge out all the things that are no longer working. Then we have the rebirth. And then fourth, we have the daily practice. And lastly, we have the manifestation. So if this is something that's screaming your name, just wait because my favorite part about this program is that at the very end of the 6th week, we're all going to meet in person in real life in New York City over a 5-star luxury dinner where we'll all get to meet each other in person and integrate the work and listen to different teachers and healers give you even more insight and raise your frequency and your vibration even higher to really just integrate the whole course. So we have 3 spots left. Just DM me on Instagram the word manifest, or I'll put the link in the show notes so that you can go online and reserve your spot ASAP. You can also use code MASTERY, all caps, when checking out to get $500 off. There's 2 different ways that you could be part of this program. Either you have general admission, which gives you the 6 weeks plus the in-person dinner, or if you do the VIP, which I think we only have 1 spot left for VIP, you'll get a one-on-one session with me, an entire 60-minute private coaching session with me where we curate something special for you. We curate a unique roadmap for you to manifest. Plus, you get sent to your home before the program even starts a starter kit, a manifestation starter kit, which I'm really excited for, a little welcome kit. Yes, so many wonderful manifestations, so many wonderful upgrades and up levels happening in the Journey with VRD universe. And if you're ready to have the transmission and the transformation, then I cannot wait to see you in my world. I cannot wait to manifest the things that you can't wait to start experiencing. Let's unblock together and manifest your best life. Okay, now we're getting into the episode. On today's episode of the Visions, Missions, and Manifestations podcast, we are so honored to welcome licensed marriage and family therapist and attachment coach, Jessica De Silva. Jessica helps you end unhealthy attachment patterns and embrace your secure self. Her podcast, Let's Talk Attachments, is one of my favorites. So buckle up as we dive deep into all things attachments. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you, Vivian. I'm excited to be here.
We are so excited to have you here. And to just settle our listeners into who you are, do you mind sharing a little bit about how you became an attachment coach?
Yeah. So my training and background, as you mentioned, is in marriage and family therapy. But I went into attachment coaching specifically because, well, first I wanted to niche into something that like truly felt meaningful for me because with psychology and you know, yeah, it can just go in so many different realms and you're working with so many different things. And so I kind of wanted to focus on a specific niche and relationships, especially like overcoming toxic relationships has been a theme in my life. And it's very present in my lineage, right? Like with my mom having just abusive relationships, my grandma, my great grandma. And so I realized, okay, I want to understand these patterns and break these patterns so that, I can experience a healthy, solid, secure relationship. So it kind of just started with like understanding these patterns throughout my generations and kind of wanting to break those.
I love that you're breaking the cycle and it's become your mission and your purpose. I love that. Something I noticed on your Instagram is that you have the word secure self
Yes.
trademarked. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So that, yes, I did trademark that. And the reason why is because so many of us, right? Like if you're operating from an insecure attachment, whether you're anxious, dismissive, fearful, avoidant, you were not given like healthy role models, right? You weren't given kind of like a framework to understand what does it look like to relate to yourself in a secure way and relate to others in a secure way. So this secure self concept or like archetype is essentially like a blueprint to help you understand what a secure attachment looks like. And when you feel lost and confused, how do you refer to your secure self concept or archetype to help you make decisions that are aligned with like your best, most healthiest self?
I have a little bit of a trick question for you. I know that we could get attached to people and there's different attachment styles, but talk to me a little bit about how, depending on which attachment style you have at the moment, how you might also be attaching to your job, to your identity, and even just to things in life that aren't necessarily relationships with a significant other.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, relate life is all about relationships, right? Like
Mhm.
we form relationships or attachment to everything. Anything that we have some kind of like emotional dependency on is, in other words, an attachment, right? You're forming a relationship to this. So, it's either you're forming an insecure relationship to the thing or the person or the idea, or a secure, healthy relationship to whatever it is that you're focused on or attached to. So, and again, like humans, we're multidimensional. So we're not just one attachment style. We fall in a spectrum. And you'll notice that depending on the person or the circumstance, different aspects of your attachment style are going to surface. So for me,
Mm.
like within romantic relationships, I tend to be a little bit more, I'm more like disorganized, anxious, but like with friendships, I tend to be a little bit more avoidant, right? Or with like my relationship to money, for instance, used to be very, very anxious, and then it kind of trickled into avoidance, and now it's a bit more secure. So it's just interesting once you start to kind of understand the language of attachment, you can start to kind of conceptualize how you approach it in different aspects of your life.
I love how well said that was and how I totally agree on the diversity. And I think it's really cool that just because you are experiencing anxious attachment style in your relationships, it doesn't mean you're going to be that way with your money, for example.
Hmm.
I bet you that the listeners are dying to know, is there a way to heal anxious attachment or avoidant attachment styles?
Yeah. Yep, 100%. And it's not an easy process and it's not like a night and day process. It's kind of a lifestyle change. So it's a recognizing what your attachment patterns are, how they're manifesting in your life, and then just choosing to behave in a different way. So essentially it's a habit that you're recognizing and you're breaking. So you're basically replacing like reactive behaviors to proactive behaviors. So the more that you can do that, right, the more that you're creating these new neural pathways, the more that you're creating these new habits, these new patterns. So yeah, you can definitely do it. It just takes a lot of awareness and a lot of consistency.
I know that you have a free attachment quiz on your site. So I'm sure if anybody's wondering which attachment style they are, they could visit your site. But I'm curious to know, is there something that happens in somebody's life that makes them more prone to a certain attachment style?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And we can kind of go through the breakdown of how it's developed if you want. But yeah, so our attachment styles are formed in early childhood, right? With our earliest caregivers, whether it was mom, dad, or whoever you spent a lot of time with growing up. But it also changes, right? With friendships that you've experienced, with different like romantic partners that you've had. So it kind of adds to like the multidimensional aspect of it, right? But if you're anxious attached, it's most likely that you had parents, one or both, that were really inconsistent with meeting
Mm.
your emotional needs, right? It was very inconsistent. It was unpredictable. Sometimes they were there, sometimes they weren't. So it leaves you feeling very hyper vigilant and very worried, kind of anxious about when you're going to get your needs met. With dismissive avoidant, oftentimes there was a lot of neglect in terms of emotional needs. So when I work with clients, a lot of them have like physical needs were met, right? They oftentimes like were really well, they had a great house, they had food on the table, there was a lot of resources available. But emotionally, parents were unavailable, right? So they didn't really talk about emotions. They didn't really ask their kids, like, hey, how are you feeling? What are you needing? Right? Lots of stuff was kind of shoved under the rug. Disorganized, which was mine, is often, so it's a combination of anxious and avoidant, but there's a lot of chaos growing up. So oftentimes your caregiver, for me, it was my mom, like my main caregiver, she was a source of safety and also the source of fear. So like when she was good in a good mood, it was wonderful. But when she was in a bad mood, it's like you might get slapped, you might get told like the worst things about yourself. It was really scary. So it leaves you kind of afraid of, approaching your parent and trusting them, to be totally honest. Um, and then if you have secure attachment, which bless you, like if that was your childhood, your parents were, for the most part, obviously not perfect, but for the most part, they were emotionally attuned. You could trust them. They did a pretty good job with giving love and receiving love. So it just created like a safe space for you to be a human and, be in relationship.
Hey there, it's Vivian, and I'm briefly interrupting this podcast episode because I'm so excited to share that if you're loving this episode, then I know that you know you're going to love working with me. The types of women I support in manifesting are women who know deep down inside they're meant for more. They have a deep inner knowing that their dreams aren't only possible, but inevitable, and are done waiting, hoping, and praying for their life to get better and are ready now to take action, learn the tools, and consciously manifest the fuck out of their lives. If this is you and you're saying yes as you listen to me say this, then Instagram message me at Journey with VRD, the word manifest, or click the link in the show notes to learn more on how we can get started in manifesting your best life. And one more thing. I'm beaming ear to ear as I share that starting in May, I'll be hosting a 6-week group manifestation mastermind where you'll learn the exact step by step process to manifest anything your soul is desiring. Think about it as the last place you go to learn how to manifest the Chanel bag, the summer vacation, the better job, or even the dream relationship. This manifestation mastermind is packed with tools that you will forever utilize to continuously manifest the things that your soul is desiring. I want to share with you my favorite part because this is what makes it. Okay, yes, I am really excited about this. Okay, so the part that I'm most excited about is that at the end of the 6-week mastermind, we'll all be meeting in IRL, in real life, in New York City for a luxury 5-star dinner to integrate the manifestation teachings with support of the community. Think New York City, long table, spiritual manifestation, up level dinner where we are all in person talking deeply about spirituality and all the things that we manifest. Imagine who you will be in 6 weeks. We have 3 spots left. So grab your seat before you miss out. You can DM me on Instagram, the word mastermind, or click the link in the show notes. Okay, now back to the episode. I'm curious to know, knowing all of this in your own journey, what inspired you to specifically choose attachments aside from breaking your own cycle, like you mentioned earlier, but your big vision and mission with this?
That's such a good question. I've been thinking about that a lot. Vivian is what is the mission here? Because I know like I'm fully passionate about this, but like I always wonder what the mission is with this. And I think it's just it helps you. It's a great framework to really help you understand how you experience love. Because if you can understand how you experience love, and you can, again, find relationships that actually complement you and help you and empower you, you become a better human. So I think like the main goal for me is just like creating better humans in the world. I think that's really what it is. And relationships play such a big part in that. And, they can either like break you and keep you stuck, or they can expand you and help you be your best self. So I like how attachment theory gives us a framework to better understand ourselves and like become better humans,
Mhm.
essentially.
And what I find so important about relationships and attachment and becoming aware of how you relationship is that everything that we want in our lives, anything that we're calling in, we're manifesting, it's all determined by your relationship with yourself. How quickly your manifestation comes in, if your manifestation comes in, it's all determined by your relationship with self. So if we could become aware of our patterning, of our attachment style, of how we are with ourselves, as well as with other people and the other things in our life, we can then begin to alchemize how quickly our manifestations come through.
Wow. And I'm so glad that you said that because a lot of research says that, okay, most of the healing happens within relationship. And I do think that's true. But I think that, because again, you're going to be attracted to people that mirror your level of consciousness and your level of healing. So if you can work on developing that secure relationship with yourself, like you kind of mentioned, you're going to find people that mirror that level of consciousness and healing too. So a lot of that really stems with like how you relate to yourself.
Mm,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And what are you seeing with your clients? What is like the number one misconception when it comes to attachment and coaching and the two together?
Yeah, I think it's I mean, you hear it a lot now where it's like the labels, right? The labels of how it kind of constricts you in a lot of ways. But I personally think that having a label to something helps you better conceptualize what is happening within you and your behaviors and what's going on and what to do about it. So I think that if you can like see your attachment style as a way to just understand your behavior as opposed to like identifying with it completely. I think you can utilize that to like, again, just help you expand and grow, but you don't have to identify yourself to that label, like with any label, right? If you're depressed or if you're anxious, just kind of use that to understand yourself, but not to keep you stuck. Like you can expand, you can become secure, you can grow out of it.
What were some of the things you did in order to get yourself from anxious attachment or disorganized attachment to more of a secure
Mm.
attachment style?
Yeah, working on my relationship with myself, to be totally honest. So when you come from, a lot of codependency and enmeshment, which is really common for anxious attachers and disorganized and avoidance, I guess too, dismissive avoidance to some extent, you lose that relationship with yourself, right? Because you're so focused on meeting the needs of somebody else and being attuned to what they're feeling so that you can protect yourself essentially, that you lose sight of like who you are. What are my values? How do I feel? What do I need? Like a lot of my experiences in the past, Vivian, have been like I would say things, but my feelings would never align, right? Like I would do things, but like I always felt this misalignment. Like, what am I saying? What am I even feeling right now? Or why did I do that? There was just no congruency in anything that I did. So my whole life was chaotic because there was no alignment. So when I started to become more secure, a lot of it was okay, identifying what are my values? What
Mm.
are values? Oh, okay. Like what does that even mean? What are my needs? How do I start tuning into my emotions and actually listening to my emotions? So there's a lot of skills that you can kind of learn to better connect with yourself and listen to yourself. And then that's how you developed self-trust. And then when you develop self-trust, there's more confidence and more self-esteem and you feel more courageous and it just all kind of intertwines and builds upon the other.
I also want to highlight there's like also a level of bravery here because a lot of times people could sense there's a misalignment, but they want to stay stuck in the comfortable. And we see this a lot with people who are in toxic relationships, whether it be with their partner, their boss, or friends, whatever. And they're like, yeah, I know this is not good. However, I rather this and the app. I have fear of the better because I don't know the better, maybe.
100%. Yeah. And I would say that that's like toxic relationships in general, right? Where like logically, you know that this isn't right. You know that this isn't good or healthy, but emotionally, you're stuck to it. You're
Mhm.
attached to it. So there's so much incongruency when you're operating from that insecure attachment style. Yeah.
I'm curious if you want to share what your rock bottom moment was where you were like, enough is enough. And maybe this was even with your mother. And this is what maybe got you into coaching on attachment.
So what led me to specifically the coaching and attachment was not my previous relationship, but the relationship before that. It was probably the most toxic relationship that I had because there was actually like physical abuse. So my life was actually in danger. And not to get too detailed here, but like, yeah, there was a moment where we got into a big fight and he put his hands on me and literally, I'm just going to be real, he was strangling me, essentially. He was strangling me. And I had this visceral experience where I was like, wait, like, what is happening here? How did I get to this point where this person who is supposed to be my partner is literally like, I don't think he was trying to kill me, but he was hurting me, obviously. And I was like, nope, this is enough is enough. This is not okay. And I think after that experience, I was single for 2 years. I went back to grad school for marriage and family therapy, learned about all the things, right? Like why we repeat these patterns. I learned about some attachment style, not so much though. And then read the book Attached because my
Mhm.
friend recommended it, right? It's the introductory book. And then it all clicked and made sense and started really like integrating with the work, learning more about it, and then incorporating it into my own life, which was phenomenal, but then also teaching clients how to understand it too. Yeah.
Wow, that's huge. It's also, again, I'm going to use the word brave. So brave of you to even recognize, like, how did I get in the situation? This isn't right, and do something about it. A lot of us get stuck in the this isn't right cycle.
Totally. Yeah. So they get stuck in that cycle, right? And then if their attachment pattern is to fix, I need to fix this, I need to win them over, I need to be better,
Mhm.
then you will stay stuck in the cycle of trying to pursue and fix a broken relationship, right? That you shouldn't even be in. Um, so yeah, breaking the pattern is recognizing this isn't okay. I have to align my logic with my emotions and actually do something proactive here.
Yes. Is there a little bit of wisdom you can give to somebody who is in that cycle now and maybe just needs that push or that piece of wisdom to
Hmm.
get them out?
Yeah. Yes. That's such a good question too. Really good questions, Vivian.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, it's hard. It's really, really hard. And I think a lot of us in those relationship dynamics, because we don't know anything different, right? If you're in an abusive relationship, whether it's physical, verbal, emotional, sexual, whatever it is, it's probably because you experienced that type of abuse to a certain extent before, historically. So to you, you've kind of normalized that experience and you probably think, well, this is all I deserve, and this is all that's out there for
Mm.
me. And this is all I'm going to find. And I want you to really recognize that that's a limiting belief system. That's not accurate at all. And that there are more people out in the world and more experiences for you to have where you can actually experience something better and mutually, gratifying and respectful and loving, and you deserve that. And it's just a matter of identifying that limiting belief system that's keeping you stuck and choosing to believe in these better possibilities for your life because they're out there.
I want to highlight the word worthy because you said
Mm.
your sense of self-worth maybe isn't there. And it is. I feel like healing your relationships, manifesting, which is all about your relationships, it's all about growing your sense of self-worth. And I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed that you trademarked secure self because it's like the same concept of like working on your worthiness.
Mm.
Um, how would you tell somebody? Is there like a tool, or maybe is there a daily ritual in your own life that you do in order to keep your self-worth at a high
Mm.
frequency?
100%. Yeah. And I'm gonna be totally honest. Like I don't feel like I'm my secure self every single day, right? It's something that it's like, again, it's this concept, it's this idea that we want to try to align with on a daily basis because, we might revert back to our default some days when we're not feeling so good, when we're feeling a bit sensitive, right? So, a really good kind of navigating system for you, or like grounding tool, is asking yourself, which I always tell my clients, like, ask yourself, what would secure me do?
Mm,
Who is my secure self, first of all? So you have to get clear on what we know who that secure you is. So get clear on your values, get clear on like what are your relationship needs, get clear on your goals for yourself, your vision for yourself. And then once you have that concept down, you want to just ask yourself, like on a daily basis, what would secure me do here? How does secure me want to feel about this? How does secure me want to approach this? And doing your best to realign, with that version of you as much as you can. And there's a lot of self-worth, right? Your secure self. I mean, that is like the confident, empowered, compassionate, loving part of you.
mhm.
So, when you can realign with that part of you, there's a lot of power in that experience because you believe in yourself, right?
You know, so much of what you're saying resonates with me so deeply. And I like to stress how it is hard. It is a challenge to grow your sense of self-worth, especially if you've been in toxic relationships. It is a challenge to get yourself out of a relationship that is toxic. And I like to stress this because I find that a lot of people will say, well, of course it's so easy for you, you know, but I can never do that. Or of course, people find excuses why it's easier for somebody else than themselves. And so, what would you say to that person?
Mm. I mean, I was there too.
Yeah, yeah.
I was there too.
Hmm.
I would always look to people and be like, wow, they have it all together. Like, look at their lives, right? They have it all together. They look so confident. They're so like goal oriented. Look at the partner that they have. And when you're in that insecure state, you have to recognize when you're in that insecure state because you feel very small. You feel very insignificant. You feel very helpless and you feel like a victim to life.
Mhm.
So kind of understanding, okay, whoop, I'm in that victim state, right? I'm in that insecure part of me. And really just, again, putting yourself like realigning with that secure you and really asking yourself, okay, what is this showing me? Even with manifestation work, right? Like when you're jealous of something or you're comparing yourself, rather than seeing it as like, oh, I can't have that thing, what is it showing you that you want about
Mhm.
yourself, right? So wow, okay, I want to be confident. I want to have a healthy relationship. That's possible for me. Like all of
Mhm.
that is possible for me because if it's possible for them, why can't I have that too? And so we keep kind of up leveling and up leveling and up leveling. And I think I'm going completely off topic here, but
Okay.
rather than like compare or feel victim to your circumstances, kind of ask yourself, what is this showing me? And what's a small thing I can do today or right now to kind of help me
Yes.
get to that space? Because it's possible.
Because I want to talk about freedom a little bit because I always joke when we were younger, we would play dress up or Barbie or like The Sims, and we would put on an outfit. Maybe it was a doctor outfit or a princess outfit, but after a few minutes, or maybe the next time we played dress up, we would choose a different identity. It would be something else, and we'd play Sims and we'd live out this whole life. And then the next time we'd play, we'd become somebody else. And I think that as we become adults, we forget that we get to choose who we get to be, and that at any moment when we're done playing a certain identity or version of ourselves, we get to choose to be somebody else. And it sounds barbaric to somebody who, of course, never grew up with anybody in their life doing anything different than the programming that they were installed with or brought up with. So when we talk about being in a certain type of relationship, that might be hard to get out of. Or maybe we feel like we're not worthy of a better fit relationship. Maybe just maybe we could play with, well, what if I could? What if I
Mm,
could choose differently for myself? What if I decide that I get to be worthy just because I decide, right? It gets to be easy in a sense.
I agree with that so much. Yeah, it's a choice. It's essentially a choice, and knowing that you have the freedom to make that choice. So there's the belief component to it, and then there's the embodiment of that too, right? So for you to believe it, you really have to step into that version of you. So there's that action step too, right? And it's it's what they say, like be whatever it is that you want to attract in your life. So if you want a partner that is loving and respectful and attuned to you and playful and all the things, how can you start being that loving, playful, respectful person to yourself so that you can actually help your brain and your body get familiar with what that feels like? Because if you come across that and you're not the embodiment of that, you're going to get the ick, right? It doesn't resonate. It doesn't resonate. So for you to really recognize and appreciate that, you have to be the embodiment and create some familiarity within yourself first.
I absolutely love that. Wow. And what would you say about the environment you're in? Is there anything in your environment that we can play with in order to help us achieve the healthier relationships we're looking for?
Yeah, like get a good friend group, right? Or and it doesn't have to be like a big friend group, but like a couple of friends that you feel safe with, right? Friends that make you feel like you can talk about things and express your emotions and they're going to hold space for you. You know, when I started to do this work, I started to really get in tune with like people that made me feel really insecure or like people that I would notice my anxious tendencies of like people pleasing and abandoning myself. And I just started kind of distancing myself from those relationships, even really close relationships. I've kind of put at a distance a bit. So you start to, like when you start feeling really secure within yourself, you really want to maintain that feeling. And you're going to notice when other people or certain environments cause a distance or a shift because you're not going to feel so good anymore, right? Your feelings always guide you to your needs. So
Mm.
it's really important to like really tune into your feelings and create that safe space within you first so that it can be a gauge in terms of like the people around you and the environments around you.
A coach I once worked with once said, Vivian, as you do the work, people are going to start showing up for you differently. As you grow your sense of self-worth and your worthiness and your confidence, some of your friends might disappear. Some of your family members might get angry at you because they're used to the version of you who walks around life with a low self-esteem. And they like it that way. They feed off of it that way. I think it was a book, The Four Agreements, that says nobody will ever treat you worse than you treat yourself. So once you realize that, ask yourself, holy shit, like, would I actually do the things that this person is treating me like? And if the answer is no, let's stop that. Let's raise the bar
Mm.
of what it means to get to be in your circle. What are
Mm.
you no longer tolerating? And what are you now saying yes to that you wish you were saying yes to back then?
Oh,
So, yeah, it's a big one.
it's huge. Yeah. I mean, my inner critic was awful growing up. And it makes sense because my mom would say the most horrible things to me, right? So often that becomes our own inner critic. And so, yeah, I tolerated that kind of shitty behavior from people because that's how I spoke to myself.
Mm.
So, when you can change your self dialogue and you can change your relationship to yourself, your radar for that kind of bullshit, you're not going to tolerate it because you're going to pick up on it really quickly. Yeah, I don't know. I find myself like, I love being in my own space. Like, I love being alone. That I really have to like open myself up a little bit more to like expanding my circle and being around people socially. But I just feel so at peace in my own space that you just really tend to kind of protect it. You really want to protect your peace. It's so important.
Okay, I have to ask, do you know your astrological trio or your
I do.
zodiac sign? Ah,
I do. Yeah, my sun sign is Aquarius. I'm curious to know yours too. My sun sign is Aquarius, my rising is Aries, and my moon is Pisces. What's yours?
I'm a Leo sun, I'm a Gemini moon, and I'm a Scorpio rising.
Wow.
It's always curious to know because then, like, if somebody's listening and they're like, "Oh my gosh, she's like that," well, I get it because I'm like this. I also have that sign in my chart, and I think that our signs are definitely blueprints. They're like
Mm.
secret superpowers towards your mission, your vision, your manifestation process. So I'm curious to know, Jessica, something I ask on the podcast to all our guests is if you were to have one spiritual superpower or a sixth sense, what would it be and how do you see it helping you in your career?
Oh my gosh, that is such a good question. Oh man. A spiritual superpower, I think it would be to like maybe like my presence being able to disarm people so that I could just be with them authentically without all of the conditioning and survival mechanism. You can just be more authentic. You can just be more authentic with people. So some kind of spiritual superpower where I can like disarm all of that and then I can just like be with their authentic selves. I think that would be so beautiful.
I love that. And I feel like you do embody that because you are, I feel like I can, right when you got on the Zoom, we connected, you know? You have this very friendly and trusting energy about you that somebody could even pick up through Zoom because I did. So I definitely see that.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that. That's so
Mm,
cool.
of
That's awesome.
course. And then if you were to go for dinner with anybody dead or alive, fictional or non-fictional, who would it be and what's something you'd ask them?
Um, Probably John Bowlby, like the pioneer of attachment theory, just to like pick his brain on, you know, his discoveries and more so like his own personal interpretations of things and how he would do things differently. Just because I'm so involved in this in this science, whether I like it or not. Yeah, I'd probably have a chat with him. That'd be kind of cool.
That would be really cool. I'm
Yeah.
curious, what is a big manifestation you're calling in regards to being an attachment coach? What's next for you?
I just finished writing my first book, which is going to be released next year, beginning of next year, and I want to write my second book. So the first it's a workbook, and that was beautiful because I also kind of manifested that into my life. It was more of like an introductory approach to writing, but I have another book in mind that has always been like the book, which is kind of focused on the secure self concept. So
Mm,
I'm calling that in because that will be really awesome.
that would
Yeah,
be really awesome. I'd probably be the first one to buy it.
that's so
That's
cool.
huge. Yes. When people come to me manifesting love, one thing that I have them do is create a list of eight non-negotiables, eight things
Mm,
in the person they're calling in that's non-negotiable. For me, this is usually like monogamy, if that's what they're looking for, or if there's a specific religion, things that they're like, these are I will not say yes to somebody who does not have these. And so I'm curious, as somebody who's an attachment coach, what are some green signs that you look for in somebody that you're dating?
yeah. So I like to focus on relationship needs.
Mm.
And I like to use David Rico's needs. And you want to prioritize most important to least important, most important to least important. And then you want to get clear on like, what do those needs like look like to you in real time, right? So for instance, if you have the need for attention, what does attention look like to you? Is it attunement? Is it consistency? Is it communication? If you have the need for allowing, which is often really common for people with avoidant attachment, what does that look like? So is it freedom? Is it independence? Is it privacy? So once you can kind of nail down what those needs are for you and kind of what that looks like for you, those are going to be kind of your non-negotiables. Because if your needs aren't being met in a relationship, it's not going to work. Like it's not going to work. So you have to get really, really clear on what that is for you. So just kind of getting clear on whatever way you want to look at your needs, but breaking that down and really focusing on, yeah, these are my non-negotiables. And if these aren't being met in a relationship, well, then you're not my person. So it just helps you kind of say no to people faster and filter people
Mm.
out a little bit faster when you know what your relationship needs are.
Wow. And what would you say a red flag would be?
Honestly, for me personally, it's if you're not emotionally attuned, that's a big red flag, right? If you are closed off emotionally, that's a red flag. And it's going to be different for everybody, depending on what your needs are. But I know for me personally, I need that depth with somebody and I need someone to hold space for me to go deeper in that way. And also, inconsistency is a huge red flag. That's generally speaking, inconsistency is a really big red flag. Like the mixed signals is a big red flag. Those are things that are naturally going to make your nervous system feel really dysregulated. So, green flags, I would say consistency, predictability, congruency, red flags would be the unpredictability, the uncertainty, the mixed signals, because naturally, again, that's going to make your nervous system feel dysregulated.
Mhm. And what would you say the superpower is in knowing exactly what your needs are in a relationship?
Knowing your needs is going to give you clarity, which I think is a superpower, confidence, which is a superpower, um, courage, which is a superpower, because if you know what your needs are, again, you're going to have more clarity and confidence around, is this a good match or not? Right.
Mm,
Yeah.
wow. And who would you say your ideal client is?
If honestly, if you're just struggling with an insecure attachment, so I work with all the attachment styles, whether you're anxious, dismissive avoidant, or fearful avoidant. If you are ready, because this is a big shift that you're making in your life and it requires you to learn some new skills and actually implement it. But if you've noticed that, I have these really unhealthy patterns in relationships and I want to actually do something about it, then attachment coaching would be your place to probably do that. Therapy also is really helpful. If you want more of like a long-term approach to it, coaching is a bit different because it's a bit more action oriented. Therapy, I can't tell my clients what to do necessarily, but with coaching, it's much more directive. So it's like, this is the problem, this is the solution, and like, let's work on this together.
If somebody wants to learn more about you, follow you, apply to work with you, how would they do that?
Yeah, they can go to my website, jessicadesilvacoaching.com. And then I think everything's on there. My podcast, Let's Talk Attachments podcast, attachment coaching if you want to learn about that. And then my Instagram, if you want to learn more about just attachment in general, it's the Jessica De Silva.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to have had you on here. I'm so happy to have met you.
Thank you so much for having me. That was so lovely.
Hey, if you like this podcast episode, please download it, give us a nice review, and follow us on Instagram at Journey with VRD to get all the latest and the greatest updates. Till next week.